Hi, Lynn. It is so nice to see you, and thank you so much for being part of what's become a bit of a series where I have the privilege of getting to talk to leaders that I've admired throughout my career and ask them about their beliefs and thoughts and perspectives on leadership and management. Lynn, you and I got to know each other when you were the CHRO at Population Services International a few years ago, but not everybody knows you. So I would like to ask if you could introduce yourself, tell a bit about your background and where you're at now, and then we'll get into the question.
Wonderful. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Dan. And I'm really honored to participate in this series and looking forward to having this conversation with you. I'm presently with Meals on Wheels America, based out of Arlington, Virginia. I am the Chief HR Officer with Meals on Wheels America and have enjoyed my experience. I know the organization well, having in the past served on the board as well. So just super excited to have been in this role these last few years.
Great. To start out, in this series, I realize I talk about and ask folks about management and leadership, but these are different concepts. And I've also found that different folks have different specific ideas of how they're different.
Hmm.
So, management and leadership, how are those different concepts for you?
That's a really good question. And you're right. That's an ongoing conversation. And another part of that conversation is, are leaders born with these sort of attributes or are they developed? Can they be learned along the journey? We're not going to get into that one today. But to answer your question, I do see those two being a little bit different. I see management being sort of focused on the budget and um, meeting goals and objectives for the department and approving leave, PTO, and all those kinds of things, sort of the day-to-day responsibility of the manager with their team. Leadership, I see, is a little bit different. I see it a little bit more attribute based. And I just mentioned that earlier in terms of integrity, in terms of courage, vision, the ability to sort of marshal people to a place where they may not even have thought about going. They just feel connected to and supportive of the energy of that leader and where that potential function or whatever the initiative is, where that can go.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. And so, in that space of leadership, you talk about marshaling people and moving them towards a goal. How about as a leader, how have you found you can get the best out of people that you're leading?
I think that it's first just helping people recognize that as a leader, we are no different than anyone else. And sharing, being able to share our disappointments in life, personally, professionally, being quite open and transparent best that we can be. And in engaging in a way that is a partnership and not one where it's authoritarian. I think about that quite a bit in terms of influence and being able to really connect with people, developing a relationship with my team members so that my team members feel comfortable if the emperor is not wearing their shoes, that they feel very comfortable saying, "Hey, I noticed you don't have on your shoe. Let me share this with you." And I really love that. And when I get to that place, I know I've built sort of that right team.
Yeah, built those trusting relationships.
Yes.
So that's about you and how you lead. And as an HR leader, part of that role is to support leaders in an organization. So how have you found you can best support leaders and managers in organizations where you've been in an HR leadership kind of role?
That's a really good question because one of the things that we have to be in HR is credible. And what does that mean, being credible? We have to know HR. We have to understand the function that we lead. We have to be role models for what we're talking to managers, leaders in the organization, senior leaders, particularly sometimes in my role. I'm working with leadership team members, employees, the full organization. We have to be accessible and be available. And in HR, that's really important because we building that credibility, being accessible, being available gets us sort of entree. And with that entree, we have a responsibility to listen, to provide good counsel, coach. And I think those relationships help us continue being invited back to be that trusted advisor. And that is really important to I think to the function. And I really try to impart that on my team, the importance of that, because that's how we show up well. And we feel good about that. And we behind the scenes with the team can celebrate those areas of success. And I love to look back like a year later and say, wow, we were invited to all these conversations. Wasn't that wonderful? And they go, yeah, man, that's a big difference. Maybe if there's a new team or a team that perhaps in the past didn't feel that they had that respect in the organization. HR is a tough function to have that respect in the organization.
Yeah.
It's one that it's literally an invitation.
Yeah. Well, I love hearing you frame it as something that's really earned
Yeah.
and to take pride in that when it is. Yeah. I'd like to shift gears into teams.
Yeah.
And how have you found you can create cohesive, high performing teams or organizations?
Another great question. I've never walked into an organization, into a new function, or built an HR team with the thought in mind that this is going to be a high performing team. I've never approached it from that perspective. Oh. That is sort of the outcome. And what I mean by that is I'd love to hire and with staff that are there, help coach for the best performance or success that we can have as a function, and we become that high performing team. But as I've started an organization, I've never said, my goal is to build a high performing team. I've just gone in to say, I want wonderful people who have a desire to learn, a desire to grow, that have some pretty, depending on the function, capabilities and competencies in those areas. And we're going to do it. We're going to get it done and we're going to work together and we're all in it together. And that has resulted in high performing teams, I think, that I've seen in other departments as well as those that I've had an opportunity to be part of and lead.
I love that. It's like not overthinking the let's be a high performing team. Let's just kind of trust the process. And I love that. So you, I've had the privilege to see from you firsthand your style as a leader and that creating that strong sense of trust and belonging and that kind of elevating HR to the role of trusted advisor. Where, when, and from whom did you learn your own style?
Well, we learn by watching, right? And as we continue to grow in our careers and otherwise, we look at leaders and we say, wow, that's impactful. And then we look at others and we go, I don't know that I want to take that one with me. So I've actually been very fortunate. I've worked with a few people who I feel have been quite inspirational. I'll start with Ellie Hollander, and that's to whom I report now. She's the president and chief executive officer for Meals on Wheels America. And I worked with Ellie years ago. She was the chief people officer at AARP. And how fortunate is that? How many CHROs work for a CEO who used to be the chief people officer? That's a very desirable position, right? And when I worked with Ellie, I really learned from her. She taught me a lot about being a strategic leader in HR, how to both be someone who can get involved with sort of the tactical elements of HR, but also sit at the table and lead an HR strategy, really understanding the organization and what's needed from HR for the organization to be successful. And I took that with me and in many different experiences. And then at Pandora, really benefited from that, working with an individual by the name of John White, who recruited me to Pandora. He at that time was the general manager. And he said, Lynn, it's a clean slate. There's no HR function in existence. Do with it what you want. And he said, I got your back. And I believe you know HR, hence I hired you. And I'll support you along this journey. And so it was like a once in a lifetime experience to build an HR function in an organization that had at that time about 200 people. And as you know, now many thousands of people. So to be part of that. And John transitioned, he left the organization and Scott Berger succeeded him. And Scott Berger taught me something that I carry around with me quite a bit. He said, be tough on results and kind to people. And that has resonated with me also in my career, just tough on results, kind with people. And Scott and I used to always talk about football. And one of the sayings that we all know, the Bill Belichick quote, do your job, do your job. And I add to it, do your job and do your job the best that you can do your job. And then be, again, kind to people as they're trying to do that, making their journey.
Do you, if somebody came to you and was just starting out in a first management or first leadership role, what words of wisdom, aside from maybe those that you shared from Ellie and John, what advice would you have?
That's a good question. I'm thinking maybe just get a mentor, someone that can help you. It's so easy when you were first in it to be nervous a little bit and maybe overthink the responsibility of being a manager of people. And so maybe someone that can help us with that a little bit, that has some wisdom from and seasoning from their experiences. But I also think that really developing a good relationship with the person or individuals if that you're managing is really important. I go back to developing relationship, understanding what they are looking to do with the role that they're in, relating to them, and being a bit humble and open and saying sometimes, I'm learning along the way. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. We don't have all the answers. I'm learning along the way. You and I are both people who are married. And I think in marriage, we can both say, we learn along the way. When I ask people who have been married for like 50 years, what were your secrets to here? And they say, acceptance and learning and forgiveness. We just have to be open with people and just say, hey, I'm learning along the way. So if I've made a misstep, let me know. And if I did, I apologize, but let's keep this going. I would say that's the thing that's important. And also whatever types of courses, training, and those sorts of things that you can participate in are always helpful to build up your skill set. So I think I just hit off on the 70, what is it, the 70, 20, 10. You're looking at mentoring, you're looking at some training, and some of it is just on the
Learning
job.
by doing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I love that. I love. And so you mentioned learning as you go. And so what in your role as a leader are you learning now and is still challenging with all your experience now?
Well, I'm hoping it's not coming across too much in this conversation, but slowing down, it's slowing down is a challenge. My husband often refers to me as whiteboard. And I don't know, Dan, I'm trying to think there at PSI if I had a whiteboard, but if anyone sees this from other
Oh yeah.
experiences, they will remember
I
the
remember the
whiteboard. Well,
whiteboard.
we have a proverbial whiteboard here. I'm always looking ahead and planning and thinking about the what ifs. And that's not in and of itself a bad thing. I mean, obviously, as a leader, we have to be looking at that. But I think sometimes just to pause and enjoy the here and now is
Yeah.
also important. Ellie would always say at AARP, and we actually had some work in this space, is the power of full engagement, being engaged right at the moment. And that is something sometimes that is an area of continuous growth for me.
That certainly did not come across in this conversation. And I really appreciate the thoughtfulness and the fullness of your presence in this conversation. So
Thank you.
I learned a lot and have learned a lot from you over the years. So I thank you for this and for being a mentor to me over the years. So
Thank
thank you.
you. Thank you.